worth of damage here. And it's why the casualty numbers are so high. And actually, the Lebanese government has just put out an update saying it's now 154 people killed in this, but also 5,000 people injured. And that gives you an idea of just how devastating the shockwave from this explosion was.
Tell us a little bit about the government before this explosion, because that's kind of having an effect on what's happening now, right?
Yeah, it's a complicated country, and after the devastating civil war in Lebanon that left, I think it's fair to say Beirut is almost a byword in a lot of people's minds for conflict and destruction. The civil war ended, and seemingly a pretty successful power sharing deal was established. But this is a country with 18 different religious sects, and they are trying to manage the country between them. And it leads to tensions, and it leads to rivalries, and it leads to a great deal of influence, not least because, Lebanon is a small country. It's hemmed in by much more powerful neighbors. It's got Israel to the south, Syria to the north, and then it is also caught up because of its sects and its power sharing government between regional tensions between, for instance, Iran and Saudi Arabia. And this is one of the complications that, we've just had word from the US Embassy in Beirut of the first American aid that's being donated here, and the embassy is saying that this is $17 million worth of initial support, including food assistance, medical supplies, and financial assistance for the Lebanese Red Cross. And the reason it's notable to get a detailed announcement from the Americans is that this is a complicated decision for the US to decide how it's going to offer support. It does want to support the Lebanese people. It does want to support various factions of the Lebanese government, but part of the Lebanese government made up of Hezbollah, the militia group backed by Iran, which the United States considers a terrorist entity. So how do you get this there? If you are the United States government, you want to support the Lebanese people, but you don't want the aid diverted to Hezbollah. And that's where the challenge is going to be for all sorts of countries, but principally the United States at the moment, as they decide how to administer support to the Lebanese people.
And I also saw where the French president visited there, was it yesterday, I think, as well?
He did. So Lebanon is a former French colony. So France is often likes to be seen to be coming to Lebanon's aid when trouble hits. And so President Macron flew in yesterday. But he wasn't just there to express solidarity. He said that he delivered home truths to Lebanon's leaders. And that's the situation that we're seeing in accounts from people who are there and who are, in some cases, turning out to protest in the streets. The Lebanese government is leaning towards describing this as an accident at this warehouse that was down to negligence. But there are many Lebanese who are saying that, this is a country that was already in the grip of a massive economic crisis even before this started. And a lot of people who've been taking to the streets in some cases in the last couple of days, they are saying that this just symbolizes everything they've been complaining about their government for years, that it's corrupt, that it's incompetent, that it's negligent, and that all of those things combined to enable this situation to happen. So President Macron said that Lebanon is going to need urgent reforms. He was calling for that even before this explosion this week. But he says that Lebanon's going to need urgent reforms, or other words, in other cases, in his words, he says Lebanon will continue to sink.
And one final question, did I see somewhere that some people have been arrested in connection with this whole thing?
Yeah, they've been placed under house arrest, more than a dozen officials at the port. So this is the epicenter. This is where this ammonium nitrate that was apparently seized by customs officials 6 or 7 years ago was then stored at a warehouse in the port and was then left there. And so the Lebanese government is saying, well, here's your chain of accountability. You go for the port officials, get them under house arrest, and then there'll be an investigation into how this happened. The complicating factor with Lebanon is that you now have a lot of people, a lot of citizens saying the accountability does not stop there. They believe this was enabled by deeper rooted corruption and incompetence among the ruling elite.
All right. A lot of good information, Simon. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed.
Thanks, Pam.
Has always been there for you. We here at 1480 WHBC can start that one. Find more right now on WHBC.com. Save the date for the All Care Wish-a-thon to benefit Wish is going to happen August 13th and
Cheers.
this year. Now,
Bye. Thank you
See you
so much.
later.
wishes come true.
Cheers.